The following program does not reflect the views and opinions of Channel 33, its management, or sponsors. You're watching Power Talk on your community TV station, UHF TV 33, Detroit, Highland Park.
Welcome to Metro Foodland, where you will always find courteous service. Our hardworking staff always gives their all to maintain our dairy fresh and wholesome products, cold cuts, premium meats, and of course, we have some of the freshest produce around. Check out our deli and bistro. We also carry specialty items such as Tanisha Noni, Water Station alkaline water, and much, much more. If we don't have it, just ask, and we'll do our best to get it. Remember to ask how to join our Healthy Rewards Club. Seniors and ladies, always ask for an escort to your vehicle. We'll see you soon at Detroit's own community grocer, Metro Foodland, located at 18551 Grand River. That's 18551 Grand River, near Finkel and the Southfield Freeway. Remember, that's Metro Foodland.
Tuesdays, 9 p.m. on TV 33. Join me, Barry Ross, on Mixing It Up. We'll feature informative community organizations that will offer solutions to Wayne County residents in reference to employment, safety, and security within neighborhoods, job training, education, and mentoring programs. Remember, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Join me, Barry Ross, Mixing It Up on TV 33. Hey, Detroit and beyond. Welcome to the new Metro Detroit Resource Network. That is the new name of Mixing It Up, formerly known as Mixing It Up. Metro Detroit Resource Network, because we're going to bring the greatest, the best of within the community, in the medical field, every aspect of life in this city, the best of restaurants, you got it. Metro Detroit Resource Network. Tonight's show is dedicated to Naomi Williams. This is Baby Sam's mama. Hello, Naomi. This is your show tonight. I'm doing this for you. And like I said, good evening and welcome to the new Metro Detroit Resource Network. We're formally mixing it up. And I'm still, haven't changed my name, I'm still Barry Ross, and I'm glad to be here. We broadcast to you live on TV 33, Comcast 20. We're on the World Wide Web, TV33WHPR.com. Our phone number is 868-0342, 868-0351. Even though they flash across the screen, we want you to know that you're welcome to call in, 868-4336. And like I said, tonight's show is dedicated to Mama Naomi Williams, a good friend of mine's mom. By the way, all these shows, all my shows, are available 24/7 on my Facebook page. We have a video player, Metro Detroit Resource Network, on YouTube at Ross, R-O-S-S, BD51, and BarryRoss.org under videos. All the time. Anytime you want, you can go back and look at any shows you want, and I've had some heavy, heavy shows with some great issues and some very important things going on within the city and outside of the city. Tonight, 1 week after the elections, Obama's back in, but I got to let y'all know, our wonderful governor is trying another move. He's got a new public act to take over the schools again. I forgot the number. I think it's 1382, what have you. But everybody's on it. We're not going to let him take any more schools. We just can't have it. Our children need a great education, to say the least. If we can educate our children, maybe they wouldn't want to do some of the things they're doing out here in the community. Tonight, speaking of community, I got a very necessary and important organization, Crime Stoppers, and you know we work with them hand in hand. But I just recently became familiar with a program that Mr. Tom Staten runs, where they're bringing into the school system, they're starting from K-8 through 12, the children, we need to start working a little lower than with the teenagers outside. We got to start working with the problem where it's starting from. We got to start working with the children younger. Crime Stoppers is now in the schools, and Mr. Tom Staten, we're going to talk about some major issues that are plaguing the young ladies and young men in the community in terms of their mindset, and we want to offer a way out. So Tom Staten's going to be with us in a couple minutes, and we might show a Crime Stoppers DVD tonight if we have some time. I just want to tell everybody that today we put to rest the great Emanuel Stewart. And as you know, he's done so much in our city for the youth and given them sports programs because like Tom here was all city, all state basketball in school, we don't know where we'd be with a lot of these programs that have been cut. In Emanuel, he got Tommy Hearns when I think he was 14 years old. And many, many great fighters. They were at Greater Grace today, and I heard that Holyfield, Aretha Franklin sang, the owner of HBO, and Bob Arum, and I could go on and on. Meanwhile, right now as we speak, they're having a repass event at the Rooster Tail downtown, going to be going on until about 4 a.m. in the morning. Every major celebrity in the boxing world and entertainment business is going to be downtown tonight. And I also want to mention that I try to add to my show, and I'm a big proponent of working with others. My ego is not that big that I can't recognize the fact that there are others doing much better, much greater work than me. We have tonight, for the rest of the month and maybe beyond, Reverend Myowa Reynolds. She is under Pastor Wendell Anthony at Fellowship Chapel. And I'm not sure, but we might have an opportunity to see the great Reverend David Bullock from St. Matthew's here in Highland Park, who is very, very, very outspoken all over the country on many, 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 many political issues. He's president of the Rainbow Push in Michigan under the tutelage of Jesse Jackson. And he's been a friend of mine for a while, and I hope that he's going to be here tonight, Reverend David Bullock from St. Matthew's. And so I'm a little short tonight on some announcements. I'm encouraging everybody to continue to make a difference in our community and your community by getting out of your house and standing up for what's got to be done. Listen, you can't deny this, we don't have the leadership that we need to run a city. We don't have leadership that's got our back. We don't have public service like we need it. We don't have lighting. The schools have been taken over. We beat the emergency manager within the government in Detroit, and that's a great thing. But they're taking over the transportation. We're losing it. And Mayor Dave Bing, no disrespect, but he's not the man that I believe is providing the services that we need for our families. How do you feel about when you get home from work that you can't even go back out grocery shopping, come home and make sure that when you get out of your car, something might happen. You can't take the child to a park. They don't even cut the grass in the parks. So if we don't stand up, we're not going to have a city. Now, next year, the mayoral elections are coming up, and we got to make it between now and then, and hopefully we get some leadership that's going to start showing us that they care about the city. We can say what we want about Kiwami, but at least we had services in the city, okay? At least we had services. We don't have services. My God, I don't know what it's going to take for us to start recognizing that it's up to us to make a difference. Ain't nobody coming to save you. Nobody. You got to start saving you. I got to save myself. Okay, so without any further delay, I want to introduce you. He's no stranger to the station, and he's adjusting himself very properly. Mr. Tom Staten. He's got a great smile. And we've become relatively close, I think, in a short period of time.
Yes, we have.
I have bared my soul to you on many fronts. How are you this evening?
Man, I'm doing great. I just want to say, man, I really admire the conversations that we've had so far as the things that are happening, how you have reacted to it, how you have even left the family business to take on some of the challenges of the city, man. And not that you had to do it, but it's just something. As you say in your motto, it's also our motto, you got to stand up, you got to speak up, you got to stay safe, but you can't do it without standing up, man.
Thank you. Since I just introduced you, I neglected to also say, other than earlier, who you represent. And I want you, in a couple minutes, to talk about how important sports were to you.
Oh, absolutely.
As a teenager. But tell everybody who you work for.
All right.
One of your jobs.
One of my jobs, all right.
Yes.
One of my many hats.
Yes.
I work for Crime Stoppers of Michigan. Many of you know it as that conference where you have someone on there. I know you know who killed my son, or I know you know where my daughter is. The conferences that try to help families reunite or try to help find the killers and offer rewards for it. Well, I've been brought in to be their campus Crime Stoppers manager, and they've allowed me to create a program called Project Safe Campus, and we are now in all of the high schools in Detroit and about 9 high schools outside of Detroit. We're pushing it lower and lower into the middle schools and into the elementary schools, because we know as low as we can get it, that's where you really have the impact before those personalities are even made and formed, with things like anti-bullying programs and I mean, there's just so much that we can do. But Crime Stoppers has been around about 20 years in Michigan before I get started. and they've, even this year, we've had over 6,000 tips already. We've given out over $60,000 in rewards in our Crime Stoppers program. Maybe you're one of the people who called in and reported that drug house next door. Maybe you're one of the people that called in on that homicide. Maybe you're just one of the people in my campus program that called in. One of the young people called in and said, hey, my friend just said that they were going to commit suicide on their Facebook page.
See, they don't know about this shit. Let me just be rude.
Go right ahead.
Let me be white boy rude for 1 second.
Go right ahead.
First of all, we really need to get these children when they come out their mother.
Yes.
If we could be in the hospital
Yes.
and catch them when they're coming out, which is really, we need to start about that young.
Absolutely.
But they don't know what these programs entail in these schools. You only mentioned them. Okay, the bullying, suicide, but tell everybody how this is working.
This is how it works. What they have allowed me to do, I've just been there about 6 months since last May, and what they've allowed me to do is design a program that actually goes into the school, works with the student government or the student council or the Students Against Drunk Driving council, works with the leaders in that school, and they help promote Project Safe Campuses program through a poster contest, through a public service announcement contest, where they actually take ownership of it and have their own assemblies, have their own peace rallies, nonviolence rallies, anti-bullying rallies. We want them to take ownership of the process. I tell them all the time that we just want to activate the activists, because yeah, there's some knuckleheads in our schools, but there are also some kids in our school who have the vision to take it to the next level, and that's who we're trying to get to.
Let's take a call.
Fantastic.
Good evening. You're on the air with Mr. Tom Staten from Crime Stoppers. How are you?
Good afternoon. I was wondering, is your guest any relation to Bishop Staten?
Actually, he is a distant cousin. We're the Statens out of Philadelphia, and yes, he is a distant cousin of mine.
Yeah, because I know I grew up with Gabe Staten, and over there at Clinton Street, Bethlehem Temple. I know Bishop Staten just recently passed.
Yes.
And over at Unity Temple, Steve Staten, I've been knowing him since he was a little baby.
Yes.
But I was just wondering, I thought you kind of favor him.
Yeah, we all do. In fact, my father was Reverend Chester Staten. He was out of 8 Mile Road, Royal Oak Township, over there in the Ferndale area. He was a fire chief, etc. And one of the things he did was encourage me all in the church. And I grew up in the pulpit, as you can probably tell. I grew up with a mic in my hand. But he encouraged me always, to stand up, speak up, and never let anyone take away your education.
Staten's funeral over at my church over at Greater Grace.
Yes.
Bishop Charles Ellis is my godson.
Yes.
And,
Very familiar.
you know, I just thought when you said Staten, I said, let me see if this was one of the family members.
Thank you so very much. Thanks for calling.
All right, Mr. Ross, give me a call later.
Yes, sir, Mr. Brother. Night.
All right.
Good evening. You're on the air. Hello?
Yes, hey, how you doing?
Turn your TV down, please.
I don't have my TV on.
Okay, we got a lot of feedback. It's gone. Are you still there?
Yes. Hey, Barry, this was...
You know what? Can you hang up and call right back?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me tell you, though, my dad really wasn't the athlete in the family. Actually, it was my mother. My dad was the one who encouraged the education and made sure that that was a part of everything. Conference.
Oh, okay.
And but my mom was the athlete. She was the baseball player back in North Carolina. Used to play hardball with the guys. Taught me how to shoot my first basket. But later went on to become All-State and All-American in high school. Went on to University of Michigan, and Carrie Ford was 3-year starter. The whole thing. I would have went to the NBA, but I hurt my knee.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, but what happened was it taught me not only the game, but it taught me the importance of having somebody in your corner. So I went on to coach for about 15 to 20 years. I just retired from Ferndale High School's
coaching.
Yeah, head coach position.
You were All-City, All-State.
Yeah, All-American. Yes,
All
sir.
right, let's take another. Not to cut you off.
That's okay.
Good evening. You're on the air with my new friend, Mr. Tom Staten from Crime Stoppers. How are you?
Hi, Barry. This is Roy Godwin.
Hello, Mr. Godwin. How are you?
I'm fine. What I want to know is what kind of outreach in the community Crime Stop his program has outside of the school.
I'm glad
What are you doing outside of the school, around those school areas?
I'm glad you asked that. In fact, Barry and I met at one of the outreach situations just this past Saturday or so at Arise Detroit, the Safety Summit. Personally, I am a person who is in the community all the time. I was just over at Greater Grace this weekend passing out things, and in fact, you know, it takes some of us to kind of help the organization. So at our staff meeting just this Friday, the question on the board was, how can we improve Crime Stoppers' impact in the community? And of course, the first thing I told them, we got to be out in the community to improve anything. So we are now, as a part of what we do, tasked with being in the community at church events, at any outreach events that come before us that we can attend and bring our message out to the community.
Roy, did you have a suggestion, Roy, or something you wanted to ask him other than that? Or?
No, I was curious as to what type of participation or response that you're getting from the people in the community, i.e., in particular, the parents.
I'm glad you asked that. We just had a meeting with that new EAA.
John.
With Covington and Tyrone Renfrey, and one of the things that they emphasized as we bring it together, it's such a great experimental pot because of what they're doing. They emphasize that the program needs to reach to the parents, but not only that, but we need to do just what you said, Roy. Start with peace rallies, nonviolent rallies, and invite the community into it as well, so that the parents know that we cannot do it without them. Crime Stoppers begins with the parents. They can make up to $2,500 for making a call that results in an arrest. I mean, that's what it was designed for, to give them a way to be anonymous and to have an impact in the community. So we're just trying to carry that lower and lower and lower so that we can activate the activists to stand up and speak up. But yes, we are in the community.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the job well done, and I appreciate what you're doing in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy. Roy has a show here, and Roy's has his own network, an internet show. Roy is a very concerned community person. He just left here about an hour ago.
Awesome.
Roy, I have the utmost respect for him, and he really cares. So
well, let me say this, because that is such a wonderful question. It's the question I asked when I came to Crime Stoppers about 6 months ago, because I didn't see them doing very much in the community. And you know what they told me? Well, that's one of the reasons you were hired. He says one of the best things that we can give to the schools and to the community is you, and put some budget behind it.
That's why I had you here in our other show last week, that I'm surprised that I didn't know about this program, and I think they need to have some PSA announcement, PSA on TV in general. Spend a little money to make these programs available to the community because they don't know.
I'm so glad you said that. You heard me mention just a minute ago the poster contest. Well, the poster contest is our posters, a contest for the students to create posters either freehand or through computer drawing that talk about Project Safe Campus and Campus Crime Stoppers and do the right thing and no bullying and those types of things. That's the poster contest, and they get like $200 or $350. The winners of each school gets $200. Right, they get paid.
And they need money.
And then we hang those posters in the schools. Now, but the next contest is a PSA contest, a public service announcement contest, where the school's drama department or audiovisual department gets together and does a 30-second commercial for Crime Stoppers or Project Safe Campus or no bullying or no gangs or whatever they want to do it on.
Why don't they give me one of those so I can run
That's
it on
what we
my
want
show?
to do, but that's coming in January, though.
Okay,
That's
I
coming
can
in
do
January.
one anytime they want. All right, so let's get
I have one that's 3 minutes.
Okay, we'll
I'll
talk.
get it to you.
All right, listen, let me just ask you a question.
Yes.
Let's get specific.
Yes.
I'm in high school. For whatever reason, I want to kill myself. Most people that actually do, in my opinion, that do kill themselves for suicide, they don't announce it. Right. When a person wants to once they make up their mind, it's over with. They don't reach out for help. But those that reach out for help, that tell a friend, their friend has an option with this, right? You have a suicide.
Absolutely.
Okay, what is it exactly?
Can I give you a real life example? I
Sure.
can't say what school it was,
Okay.
but just last week.
You comfortable?
Yes, I am.
I'm fat in this chair. Okay.
Just last week in a school district, because this is anonymous, so I can't say who, where, what, when.
Go ahead.
In a school district near us, there was a young man who sent in a tip. And the tip said, my friend, who I speak to every day, has just taken himself off of Facebook. The last things that he said seemed really weird and threatening. I haven't been able to contact him. I think he's going to commit suicide. That tip came in to Toronto because that's why it's so anonymous, because you can't cross that international barrier with that 1-800 number.
No caller ID.
No caller ID. So the tip goes to Toronto, comes through the software to us. We vet it, send it out to the appropriate department because this was a weekend. Immediately, that department took action and contacted that family and found the young man who was in the process.
Why, he gave them the name of the person?
He gave them the name and the tip
wonderful.
of the person.
Go on, so what went down?
And the number, because you can give the name, the telephone number, you just can't give your own information.
I understand. So what happened?
So they saved his life, and this young man, he didn't come through our campus program. He actually came through, because it was a weekend, he came through the actual police department program. This young man is now in line for a $1,000 reward if he wants to pick it up.
And how is the young man doing that wanted to take his life?
He is now receiving help, doing well, the whole thing. He just needed some intervention.
That is wonderful.
How can you pay for that?
That is wonderful,
Yes.
everybody.
That's truly a life
Wonderful.
Truly a life save.
Okay.
So it's funny you should ask that. But that
funny
just
but
happened
ironic.
this week. Right.
All right, let's talk about now.
Yes.
I got big ears. I'm overweight. And my front teeth are missing. And I'm going to school, and 3 or 4 guys are picking on me. And they don't want me coming around. My dad drives a nice car. He drops me off at school, and they call me a sissy, whatever the case may be. So they're confronting me in the mornings, and I'm afraid to go to class. What's his options?
You know, there has been some legislation just passed that the schools are trying to get their hands around. There's a new anti-bullying law that is now in place where before bullying or cyberbullying was just kind of an offense that you could maybe, get your hand slapped for. They have just raised that to a level 3 offense, which means that up to and including suspension. It's as important as bringing weapons or drugs
And
to
that
school.
doesn't scare a lot of kids. I think that's a great law, but there's kids out there wouldn't be afraid if you stuck a gun in their nose.
Exactly, that's true.
But what is the program offering?
The program offers, one thing that's important about this law, though, I just want to touch on. Now the schools are not only responsible for dealing with the person who is bullied, but they're also responsible for providing some intervention to that bullier, because they know that if you do not provide that intervention, that it can grow into very psychotic behavior eventually, in fact. But that person can now, if someone sees the bullying or even the victim, can call in and report that bullying. And it doesn't go to the police. It can go right to the assistant principal or the principal, and it can be handled right in-house. But it's a situation, especially with our population of special education students. Many times they're bullied, and no one knows.
Question.
No one
and
knows
a lot
about
of their
it.
programs are cut off.
Exactly.
You know, this city, like a lot of cities, teachers are intimidated by students. Teachers get jacked, jumped on, what have you. So are you telling me a principal will now confront? So there's a bullying going on in school, and she or he gets wind of this. A principal will go, how would they approach this situation?
They'll approach the situation. They never will say that it was a tip, Project Safe Campus tip that caused it. But they'll approach the situation, pull the person in, let
the alleged bully.
The alleged bully, quote unquote, get to the bottom of things, but alert them that now that this is on record, that if anything else happens, and it's also always case by case, but that they are up to it, including, because one of the problems, sometimes you have to get rid of the element if they can't adjust to school itself.
Well, I don't know about today, but when I was young and I got suspended, revoked, kicked out of school, starting in elementary school. So you would get suspended for 2 or 3 days a few times, and then after that, you would get kicked out of school.
Yes.
So I don't know, is that the same program they're sort of using today?
Yes, where after so many times, you're gone.
Right.
And depending on, watch this, and depending on what they kick you out of school for, you may not be able to come back to any school in that district. And if it's a weapon of any kind that's involved, even if it's rubber band shooting projectile, you may not be able to come back to any school in Michigan.
Okay, if I may, because you and I have talked, we and this I feel is so important. We've talked about the difference. I'm 61. He might or might not want to tell you his age. He's 55. We talked about, and I went to Mumford, and when I went to Mumford, if you got into a fight, let me just finish this. You wouldn't have to worry if you came back to school tomorrow you'd get killed. You might have to worry you're going to have to fight a couple guys, but you didn't have to worry for your life. So the culture across the country, the mentality of the youth has changed. The values, the morals in parents, family, it's changed in our society across the board. So the culture now, we talked about this. Young ladies, I want to talk about. Young ladies could we start in elementary school?
Oh, we can start. I had one administrator tell me that his biggest, I had 3 administrators, different administrators, tell me that their worst problem is with 8th grade girls.
And what is that problem?
The problem with in their schools, that sometimes the 8th grade girls are bullying the smaller girls. The larger girls are bullying the smaller girls. Sometimes it's sexual predatory type situations. Yes, sir. It's gang activity. I was told of one situation where the 8th grade girl who ran about 180, 200 pounds, pulled away from the security guard, slapped the teacher, and dove on the girl that she was trying to beat up. I mean, it's crazy. But again, we have to activate the activists, because we can't live in fear, because our silence only condones the violence. So we have to have a tool where that type of behavior can be reported, a tool where that type of behavior can be removed if necessary. Funny you should say what you said about the fighting, though. We had a situation a school in the suburbs where that
not white kids.
Watch this, where that exact situation happened that you talked about, where there was a fight in school, but the guy who lost had big brothers, and he called the big brothers. And at the football game this year, the big brothers were coming with weapons to take care of this guy who jumped on their little brother. They were coming up, and no one wanted to talk about it, and someone sent in a tip. And that tip went to the appropriate authorities, to the principal. They contacted the appropriate authorities. They found the guys on the way to the game in the car with weapons in the car and was able to stop that.
That's wonderful. I just want to say, and I'm not I don't think a pessimist by nature, but sometimes I feel even the work I do in the community, we boarded up houses, I go out from work. It's almost like taking a glass of water out of the ocean. The problem is so vast and so deep. Whatever we do, it almost seems like, and I'm not discrediting anything you do, I think it's wonderful, it's almost like putting a Band-Aid on it for a hot minute. But now that I'm thinking, I'm going to try to find maybe a behavioralist. I want to talk about what's going on with young girls and the lack of parenting, and why the young girls, teenagers, are raping other girls. This problem wasn't around years ago. I know we have a proliferation of the change of sexual preference in this country. It is, that's not really a proper way of putting it, but it is so much more out in the open now.
Yes, it is.
Men with men, girls with girls, ladies with ladies, that it's no big deal. But young ladies jumping on other girls is a power trip. It's having sex with them. That wasn't around when I was. This is a whole different world we're dealing with. What are they doing with these young ladies? What's happening? I mean, kids are afraid to go to the bathroom. I've heard of cases, forget girls, just in general. They intimidate young men and young ladies so bad in some of these schools that they can't even go to the bathroom, they urinate. Imagine having to hold it till you get home. That is terrible.
Afraid.
It's fearful. Terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right. We're going to take a minute break and come back and be back with Tom Staten. We'll be right back, everybody. Thank you. Wow.
1,000 men's suits. And right now at Sermons, you can buy one and get two free. Not one suit, but two free. Buy one suit, bring two friends. Buy one suit, bring two relatives. Buy one suit, get two free. Bring your pastor, your boss, your teacher. Buy one suit and get two free. Sermons with 90 years of experience, carrying jeans, exotic skin shoes, sets, shirts, leather, sweaters, everything for the well-dressed man. Buy one suit, get two free. Sermons on Randolph in downtown Detroit.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin.
Did you know that there are over 100,000 abandoned homes within the city of Detroit? If you are tired of abandoned dangerous houses in your neighborhood, please support the Greater Detroit Restoration Project.
Please make all checks and money orders payable to the Greater Detroit Restoration Project. The mailing address, 17301 Livernois, Suite 405, Detroit, Michigan, 48221.
All donations will help fund the expense of boarding up abandoned homes within the city of Detroit and Highland Park. For more information, contact Barry Ross at 248-417-9696 or Minister Malik Shabazz at 313-646-3375.
You are family and friends of the victims of the crimes described in the hope that viewers will call in with tips which will help solve these crimes in southeastern Michigan. Crime Stoppers relies upon information provided by Michigan law enforcement authorities in the production of this programming. Crime Stoppers doesn't assume responsibility to update this public service presentation as featured crimes are solved.
I miss my son so much. His daughter misses him. She misses her father. And she asks why did they do this to him? He won't be able to see her graduate from school, go on to college. Can you imagine looking into a child's eye, hearing her say this about her father? It breaks my heart every day. And I think about him going on, and she's going on without her father. It's not right. It's not right. They had no right to kill my son. No right whatsoever. Please, someone, please come forward. Please call Crime Stoppers so they can get this person off the street. A person, please. Thank you.
Do you know who killed me? Alicia DeGreffenried was 8 months pregnant when she was gunned down here in Detroit's Northwest Side. Now Crime Stoppers is offering a big reward to anyone who can help solve this case.
I guess how much a life goes now. You could just take somebody's life for $300.
A gruesome murder on the 19,000 block of Santa Rosa on Detroit's Northwest Side. Police say 29-year-old Alicia DeGreffenried traveled with her boyfriend to this neighborhood to meet someone on May 14th at 4 o'clock in the morning. But something went terribly wrong.
My sister got shot in the back of her head, and he got shot multiple times in the face, then in the stomach. Then also when I got to the crime scene, the door was open, so they opened up the door and they shot my sister in her side, in her stomach.
Alicia was 8 months pregnant with a boy who would have been born just 1 month later.
We went from planning a baby shower to burying my sister.
Today, Crime Stoppers announced a $2,500 reward for information leading to an arrest in this case, $3,500 if you give a tip by tonight. Alicia leaves behind 2 children who are preparing to spend their first Christmas without their mother.
For her kids to come up to me and ask me, Auntie, is it going to be funny without my mom being here for Christmas? Or who going to help make the macaroni? She always believed in the Lord. So I know she's at a better place, and I know we all have to grow. But it was the way that she died that kills me and my family.
And to the person who pulled the trigger, Alicia's family says this message is for you.
We stand strong, and we will not give up. We will continue on for as long as it takes.
Police say Alicia's boyfriend is not cooperating. He now tells them that he doesn't remember who he was going to meet at 4 o'clock in the morning. Alicia's family now tells me that the boyfriend also asked them to stop calling him. Anyone with information, call Crime Stoppers. That number, 1-800-SPEAK-UP. On Detroit's Northwest Side, Marielle Liu, Fox 2 News.
Now that he's not here, it's a void in our family, is a void in our hearts. We miss him. We talk about him. We cry, we laugh. We had many experiences with him, and we just need some closure in our family.
It's like, a real good friend to have. He died trying to save someone else's life, trying to help someone else out. And we just kind of need someone to come forward and, help us out. This could have happened to anybody.
I know the rules of the streets is you see and don't tell. But somewhere, someday, somehow, it has to stop. Someone has seen something, someone has heard something.
It's hard sleeping at night, just knowing that he's not there. His laughter, his smile, him being silly, him just being Cody.
I'm ready when you are. Welcome back to Metro Detroit Resource Network. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the point, I believe we have about 375 murders this year. And I just want to say this, that a couple months ago I was watching the news, and they had such a proliferation of bodies from in the city of Detroit at the morgue that they had to store the bodies in a Mack truck trailer, and these bodies were not exactly stored with any sense of dignity and respect. I don't even know in what kind of order. If they had to find a specific person, I'm sure it would have been more than difficult. So, and not only that, I'm going to find the stats on this, but I know that over the last 3 or 4 years, I would have to say, and this is just a speculation, we have over 2,500 unsolved murders in the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this. What gets me, and we have a call, what gets me is the lack of consideration for the families in terms of returning a phone call to the bereaved ones. Let's take a call. Good evening, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, how are you? Did you know where you were calling, ma'am?
I'm calling the station.
Yes, ma'am. What can I do for
Direct TV. Have I got the right number?
Did you want to call my show? This is not the main
that's for the
station.
show?
Pardon me?
The number that's on the screen is for the show?
That's for my show. Do you need the station?
Yeah, the station.
868.
My TV is acting up, and I see the letters on the TV. I thought that was for the TV.
All right, real quick, and I got to go. 868-6612 is the station. You'll have to call during. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barry, I just want to say something about what they just watched prior to that, though. Because prior to my coming to Crime Stoppers, I knew about the statistics, and like most of us, they really didn't hit home unless they really hit home. But now, in the office, I get to meet the people that you see on TV. I'm there at the press conferences. I'm holding the families, you know, and hugging and bringing coffee
Sure.
and trying to support them in this time. And let me tell you, it has given a whole new feel to those statistics. You know, as you said, those bodies in the back of that truck. It helps me remember that that's somebody's son or daughter or father or mother. That's laying there.
If I had a dime for how many families, when they come to me, my first question is, other than, you know, when I state how sorry I am and I offer my condolences, what is the relationship like between your family and the investigating detective or officer? We don't have one. I said, wait a minute, how long ago did your family member pass away? And they might say 30 to 45 days. And I said, well, how many times have you called and they not returned my call? They said, after the first initial day of the incident, I've talked to them once. And I go, that is unacceptable to me. And you know, I've told you,
Yes.
I've offered to set up a panel
Yes.
to return these calls, whether it be with Crime Stoppers. And I know these calls don't come through Crime Stoppers, but I would be more than willing to set up a panel. And did you recently tell me that they're working with pastors? And
Yes.
how is that going?
Along with the high school program, we've also, I'm so glad they asked about that community outreach, started a faith-based initiative. We have over 153 churches now signed into the initiative, and Pastor Vance is on our board of directors now, and he, in fact, along with some of the other pastors and bishops and priests, have volunteered their services to act on behalf of the families and counsel them. Let me say this, though. One of the things I'm very proud about of Crime Stoppers about is if you call in and make that tip, and that tip is being followed up on, we help you follow up on that. Those people that you see on screen, we also did calls for them. We also
excuse me, that's great. That's the tips. We're talking about the families that have already lost somebody.
Yes, absolutely.
My son just got killed. I deserve now I know that the police are working overtime. They're working under terrible financial constraints. They've had budget cuts. The morale is terrible. They've had so many people at the top lose their positions. I understand that. But they still deserve the right for a return. If you call me and you're my friend, I'm going to return your phone call within 24 hours.
Absolutely.
How is that acceptable to us?
Not to get a return phone call.
My son got killed, and I'm not calling you with he said, she said, Tyrone on the corner told me the Tukey said, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about, I just want to know if you got something for me lately.
Yes.
That's all I want to know.
And that's what they do. And they call, and to not have that telephone call returned is a travesty.
So I want to know if you're working with these faith-based organizations, maybe you can call me in. Listen, I left my business. I would be willing to man the phone lines. If they would give me numbers, I would get involved as soon as possible.
That's awesome.
So
That's
you know,
awesome.
I know, within homicide, I know a few people. I've offered this. I'd like to get this going.
Yes. One of the things that we've tried to do is put people, we have a person now, a liaison, who is assigned to Highland Park and Detroit homicide, as we have a person out in Washington, or a person down in Monroe that is there to do exactly what you're saying.
We need several. We need
absolutely.
Listen,
absolutely.
We only have about 15 minutes left on this segment. Do I see my friend Tracy that came here? I'm impressed. We're going to take a quick.
We're all
break,
good.
And I want to bring him on. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate. I don't mean to screw you off.
Oh,
but
that's
but
no
he was at
problem.
Emmanuel's funeral today. And
Awesome.
this man's a promoter. I want him to give his, shed some light on what's going on here.
Can I tell you?
You know he's not more important.
That's
than him,
right.
But
Hey,
I want everyone to hear what's going on.
Emmanuel is one of my heroes. I met him when I was 17 years old, when he first brought Tommy Hearns out to the public many, many years ago. So
okay.
I'll gladly give up my seat.
Stay put, and I want you to stay, and I want you to hear this man, this great gentleman right here. He's going to be on in a little later. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back. Tracy Wright, you're going to come on. All right, Tracy Gilliam, be right back. You're going to want to check me out. First Wednesday of every month. Join me, Barry Ross, remixing it up. It's webtv.com. I'm going to be reporting to you the facts and the truth, the way our society is run in Metro Detroit. 8 p.m., bringing you featured guests in relation to community, education, violence, what's happening on the streets in our town. It's Web TV, Barry Ross, remixing it up. Wednesdays at 8 p.m., the first Wednesday of every month. Remember, remixing it up with Barry Ross on itswebtv.com.
We are the faces of Detroit. We are the faces of Delray.
We are the faces of Delray. Governor Snyder wants to put us out of our homes by building a bridge in our front yard.
Homes where we raised our families.
A community where we buried our loved one.
Delray is struggling, but it's not lifeless. It's a community of hopes and dreams.
Governor Snyder.
Invest.
Not destroy.
Hello. Good evening. We are back on the Metro Detroit Resource Network, and it's been very exciting this evening, and it's a very big passion of mine in the city of Detroit, the level of violence that we're contending with, tolerating, and it's not changing, and our leadership is not showing us that they're coming forth to make a difference in the city. So we have to. And I hope you all recognize the fact that it's our responsibility to start making a difference in our own neighborhoods. A couple weeks ago, we lost a very dear friend to Detroit, Mr. Emmanuel Stewart, and his funeral was today. And as you know, Emmanuel Stewart has fathered and raised Tommy Hearns, many great boxers, Hilmer Kente, Mickey Goodwin, I believe he had Mickey Goodwin. And I could go on and on and on because that's my favorite sport. But we have a surprise guest. Mr. Tracy Gilliam is here tonight. And he's no stranger to the boxing world. And Tracy was at the funeral today.
Yes.
What was going on there today? I'm sure there was no parking.
Oh, gee whiz. I mean, Barry, you got there early. The dignitaries, the VIPs, the celebrities. I mean, you had in this house here, even for the family and friends, you had more world champions sitting in a section. Jim Lampley from they had HBO and its almost entire cast. They said if we didn't have other obligations, the rest of our crew would have been here. The president of HBO was even in the house. And,
you sat next to him.
I sat next to him.
He's
yes.
so humble.
Yeah, Ken Hirschman is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And and very significant, thing that you were saying earlier on the broadcast about fathering and the youth, and that was one of the things that Judge Mathis he when he took stage. I mean, it was like a Grammy Award. You had Roy Jones, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Ivan Barkley,
Klitschko's,
both Klitschko's. That's the current undisputed reigning heavyweight champion of the world. It's the first time that America has lost the heavyweight belt since Lennox Lewis in over 100 years. And Lennox Lewis and all three was in the house. So we have to give them their special props.
Excuse me, were the Klitschko brothers, are they both champs?
Yeah, they're both champs. Currently. So they because they promised their mother that they would never fight each other. So there would never be an undisputed. So between the two brothers, they're the undisputed champion.
You can see in my house, we didn't promise my mother that. It's proof today where I'm at. Proof today where I'm at. Okay, so go on. You had Evander Holyfield?
Yeah, Evander Holyfield. I mean, here's just some of the stories. You know, when you picked Evander out the hat, he spoke on the fact that, well, you know, I wasn't a crunk fighter, but I was, you know, I trained against the crunk, against Ricky Womack and different ones. And every time I saw that crunk, it was trouble. And he says when he lost his title to Riddick Bowe, and he knew he promised his son that he would go back to get his title. And he said, so he knew in order to get his title that he said, Manuel Stewart, he said he just had a way. He came in there and said, you know, Vander, you know, you bounced and you danced around him, you got legs, and you bait him in for another 4 rounds, and that you can bait that guy in and you can take his title. So he hired Manuel Stewart, and
That's right. Emmanuel was a contract trainer.
Yes.
So he did hire him outside of Kronk. I remember that. I was just going to talk about that.
Yes.
Emmanuel had trained many other fighters outside of Kronk.
Lennox
Lewis too, I think, right?
Well, Lennox hired him on for the rest of the duration of his career. So he reigned with Lennox, and it took Lennox to Hall of Fame, and then from the Lennox he got with the Klitschko's, and he continued to reign as the heavyweight champion trainer since the belt left.
Great, right now many of you I know this. A lot of people close to this young man, Tracy Gilliam. Tracy used to box. He was a professional boxer, okay? Tracy wears many hats. You got the international or nationwide hair show thing going on.
Yes.
You got the hair magazine going on.
Yes.
And you were working with K9.
Yes.
You still is K9 what? Is he independent? Is he a free agent? What is K9 now? His last fight ended his contract with Don King.
Right, yes, his last fight, managerial. Actually, he was managed and trained by Emmanuel Stewart, and he was promoted by Don King. Don King, however, still have an option with him, but you know he's letting K9 have his will. And
thank God, because he let him go stale. In my opinion, you don't have to say it. He let him go idle for a long period of time. He wasn't concentrating on K9. He's getting older. But you said he's one of the best trained fighters for his age.
Oh, absolutely.
He's pushing 40.
Absolutely.
And he's got the body of a 20-something-year-old.
Yeah, he's 39 going on 24. You know, if that's the case, he is that case. Believe me when I tell you that. I mean, he can outrun, out-jab, out-punch, out-maneuver, out-calisthenic anybody.
And he's manageable, and he listens, and he's a good guy, and he's got God on his side.
Yes.
And I know he goes to church. He is a great young man. Quiet, humble.
Yes.
Okay, so go on. So, and then I want you to talk about tonight, what's going on. I know you guys are leaving here with this beautiful young lady, okay, on your arm. Okay, there'll be pictures at the door. Okay, so go on. So many celebrities today.
Yeah, many celebrities that you have that attend this event. I mean, dignitaries, judges, mayors, and one of the was the top of my head. One of Emmanuel Stewart's dreams was to build another Crunk, and in city of Southfield, that's where he was building the new Crunk, and so 9 Mile and Telegraph. So and he was partnering up with Judge Mathis. So Judge Mathis made a quick statement. He says,
go on.
Judge, Brenda Lawrence and also Mayor Dave Bean was in the house, and he says, well, you know, Mayor Lawrence, I want you to continue that dream, you know, what Manuel was going to do as far as that project. But he says, now I know the city of Detroit is cash-strapped, and he looked over to the mayor, he says, but this here won't cost the city one dime. He said, you know, we want you to be able to take that Northwest Activity Center and rename it to the Emmanuel Stewart Center.
Oh, and
what the mayor was, you know, he nodded yes.
Wow, that's great.
And he said the city council, I guess they would vote on it. Then and Reverend Ellis says, well, this is an election year. I'm sure they won't have any problems getting that passed through.
That's right. They don't need to have an election for this to go down. Now, Emmanuel, children?
Yes, he had 2 children. Yeah, he had a daughter and his 2 daughters.
Okay.
And his wife for 48 years. and his sister and his two sisters. So he had a strong family connection, you know, with his within his inner circle, and besides his boxing family.
Now you wouldn't know this, but Emmanuel used to bring Tommy into sermons when he was still an amateur, and once Tommy started making money, he graduated to the next door shop, Tracy. He left sermons and stepped up his game. And I think somebody gave him a yellow Cadillac with a green top.
I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that.
And I know Tommy lived at 9 Mile in Evergreen.
Right.
At one point, and you know, I guess that's another.
He gave
story.
that house to his sister, or sold it, or whatever. But that he still. That's still in his family, that home you're speaking of.
I just want to tell you something real funny, not about Emmanuel, real quick, and I'm going to go. I used to go to the Olympia, and when Tommy had a lot of local fights, and one night I was there, and the guy tapped me on the shoulder behind me for a light for a cigarette, and when I turned around, the fight was over. And I was so mad at the guy, I almost said, it was in the first round. Remember when Tommy was always punching him out in the first round?
Yes.
And I mean, so many fights ended so quick.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't know. Emmanuel was a 50-50 partner, but he paid for all the expenses.
Mm-hmm.
He paid for the ring. Mm-hmm. So when you consider all these extras that Emmanuel was covering, it really was a good deal. And in my opinion, he was literally a father to Tommy.
Yes.
And took him from what could have been a lot of these guys come from the street. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
And polished him up. He got speech lessons. Mm-hmm. Quite a story. Was Emmanuel with him when he fought Sugar?
Yes. Emmanuel was with Tommy his entire career. And speaking of Thomas Hearns, even in Emmanuel's death, in his last words that he had, his words was to tell Tommy Hearns that he loved him. And when Tommy, one of the most emotional words was with Tommy Hearns. He got up there to speak. And Tommy, I never, all the years I've known Tommy Hearns, I'd never seen him so emotional, where he couldn't get the words out, and it's the tears, and it was just he was just an emotional wreck, and then even and I'll just drop a quick footnote. Iron Barkley, he was there.
He was there.
He was there. He sat next to Tommy, and Emmanuel had a great love for him.
Was Sugar near Tommy too?
Yeah, they all sat together. And but back to Barkley. Barkley, he knocked Tommy Hearns out twice, and he turned to Tommy. He spoke out to Tommy. He says, Tommy, he said, despite the past, he says, then he went on to say, when I remember Manuel Stewart came over to me after the victory and told me, you're a great fighter. You fought, you beat my fighter. He was a great world-class fighter. You put a lot into this. And Iron Barkley was just as emotional as Tommy Hearns. These guys, and he has a great love for God, and he was just an emotional wreck.
Well, we'll never replace him. I said, just take a couple minutes real quick and tell them what's going on. Are you on your way there now?
Yes.
Tell everybody what's happening right now.
Tonight at the Rooster Tails, the repass, whereas for Emmanuel Stewart, with all his dignitaries and VIPs and special guests from around the world, literally, will be there. The Klitschko's, HBO, you name it, Sugar Ray Leonard, all the world champions. Aaron Pryor was in the house. The list just goes on. I couldn't name them all. And but this would be where all the commissioners, all the world class referees, and so on and so forth.
Larry Merchant.
He said right on the other side of me. Jim Lampley, everybody in this pretty much in the sports world. They came to pay tribute to Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel Stewart was a father figure to boxing. And he was a great man to the sport of boxing. And one quick other note I got to add for Robert Garcia. He's one of the top Michigan referees. He said, Emmanuel Stewart says, have you ever refereed in Vegas? He said, no. He said, my answer always was no. But he said, I told Emmanuel, he says, anybody that fights one of our fighters in Las Vegas is just as good as going to Vegas because they got to come through here.
Okay. And maybe a lot of you don't know that Emmanuel was in a restaurant club business.
Yes.
Chop House?
Yes, the 1940 Chop House.
1940 Chop
Purchased
House.
that
I think the old Playboy Club used to be there or close. It was on Jefferson either way.
Mhm.
And Emmanuel, I love you. If you go into Sermon's Close, Tracy,
Yes.
right before you go upstairs, there's a picture with Emmanuel's store. My brother still has it up.
Yes.
I haven't been there in a while, but I'm sure he still has it
Yes.
up. And a great loss to the city of Detroit, but we still got our champs here.
And I want to say one thing what Barry said when Tommy moved up to Sermons. Now,
Go on.
Moved up from Sermons, but Sermons is a move up. You know, I am praised with, you know, I'm in the fashion and hair business. I am praised all over the world for my attire, and that's from the Sermons clothing stores. I've been shopping at Sermons since I was 5 years old, that I can remember, and till today. And all my great fashions that you see is Sermon fashion.
He's so kind. Now, he knows I left, and he still loves my brother. He still shops there. Right after this
We're neighbors.
Right after this word, we're going to have Reverend Maya Reynolds, and she's going to have a special guest, and I don't even want to announce it right now, and I'm going to let her announce it. So Maya Reynolds is taking over my last time slot for the next month. So please stay tuned. Call in, get involved. It's going to be a great show. So we'll be right back after this word. Thank you, and good night. Okay.
The following program does not reflect the views and opinions of Channel 33, its management, or sponsors. You're watching Power Talk on your community TV station, UHF TV 33, Detroit, Highland Park. Welcome to Metro Foodland, where you will always find courteous service. Our hardworking staff always gives their all to maintain our dairy fresh and wholesome products, cold cuts, premium meats, and of course, we have some of the freshest produce around. Check out our deli and bistro. We also carry specialty items such as Tanisha Noni, Water Station Alkaline Water, and much, much more. If we don't have it, just ask, and we'll do our best to get it. Remember to ask how to join our Healthy Rewards Club. Seniors and ladies, always ask for an escort to your vehicle. We'll see you soon at Detroit's own community grocer, Metro Foodland, located at 18551 Grand River. That's 18551 Grand River, near Finkel and the Southfield Freeway. Remember, that's Metro Foodland.
Tuesdays, 9 p.m. on TV 33. Join me, Barry Ross, on Mixing It Up. We'll feature informative community organizations that will offer solutions to Wayne County residents in reference to employment, safety, and security within neighborhoods, job training, education, and mentoring programs. Remember, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Join me, Barry Ross, Mixing It Up on TV 33.
All right, greetings, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We're so excited to be here with you tonight. Have a special guest that we're going to really enjoy, very pertinent and important for the times that we live in. I always want to give a shout out and special thanks to Barry Ross for giving me this opportunity, for noticing something in me and inviting me to come back and share this month with you. For that, I'm so grateful. So I say greetings. I give thanks and praise for my ancestors, for my elders, for my peers. I give thanks and praise for the children and the work that we do, the institutions that we build, the love that we share, that they will inherit. And I thank God for you, my brothers and my sisters, for joining in. I want to give a shout out to the police, to the teachers, to the firefighters, to the electrical workers, to the janitors, to the secretaries, to the righteously elected officials, to hardworking, God-loving, child-rearing families in the city of Detroit and, of course, in Highland Park. Last week, when I had an opportunity to share with you, I started with a minister that's doing wonderful and great things right here in Highland Park, and tonight is no different, because I dare not be at WHPR in the city of Highland Park and not honor and acknowledge and highlight some of the phenomenal and wonderful things that are going on right here in the HP, which has an effect on all of us. Thank God they share their resources, their talents, and their gifts with the rest of us. Tonight, I want to first talk about a paradigm shift. We've had a paradigm shift, and we're living in the consciousness and the movement of that paradigm shift. Last week you did it. Brothers and sisters, our first show where I was a host for that half hour, it was the night of the election. And we congratulated you for going out there and standing in lines and doing your part. For the elders who voted absentee and got their votes in early. But we did it. We changed the world because we dared to do so. We changed the world and we said that the world is inclusive, not exclusive. That the world is caring and giving because the people said so. That we believe in fairness and equality, and it's now time to organize, my brothers and sisters. It's now time to work. It's not time to sit down. Because as you know, the opposition is already organized. But I want to say something. I have a slight critique of my brothers and my sisters in the ministry who stood up against our president and who stood up against him on the premise of what a family is. And I'm speaking specifically to African American preachers because theologically, socially, and historically, we know that that is incorrect. Because if we believe in Christ, then we believe that family is like he said family is. Family when his mother and his brother, the mother who birthed him and the brothers that she birthed, when they were at the end of the line and the people came and told him your mother and your brother outside, they need to come up front. He said, who is my mother and who is my brother? Those who are motherly and brotherly to me. So how dare ministers stand up and say that their definition of family is now that of a husband and a wife, 2 kids and a dog? If it wasn't for black people taking in kids that were not their own, taking in kids who were orphaned, who were ripped from their families, some of us were raised by aunties and uncles and we didn't even know wasn't our real auntie or uncle until we went to the funeral and found out our name wasn't on the roll or that they were actually married to so-and-so. If it wasn't for us creating family out of nothingness so that we could survive the Ma'afa and the tragedy of the transatlantic slave trade and building this Americas and creating this stock market with our free slave labor for 400 years, if it wasn't for us defining family by those people who loved us and cared for us, how dare we now say that certain people cannot be family because they don't look the way we want them to look? Shame on you. And I thank the president for standing up for family equality. For anybody that wants to say that they're going to bind together and work together and rear children and make our communities better, God bless them. And any minister who says differently, we can have a theological discussion about it later. But I just want to bring up the importance of this paradigm shift that we're living in. A paradigm shift. Why? Because my mother is 85 years old. And because all of the elders who know and understand that every time we've had a bright and rising star in the African American community, Dr. King, he was shot down like a criminal. He stood for peace. Malik Haj, Shabazz, Malcolm X, shot down like a criminal when he was the epitome of transformation and the power of God. Medgar Evers, who was registering people to vote, who was shot down in his driveway with his children and wife looking on. Fannie Lou Hamer, who was beat in a jail cell by African-American men who were in jail, who were held at gunpoint to beat her for registering for people to vote and for claiming that the voices of the people shall be heard. So the paradigm has shifted because 4 years ago, people didn't even think it was possible for an African American to even run and get close to becoming the president. And not only was it possible, we did it again. And so we've shifted the paradigm because there were many people who were worried that he wouldn't even make it because you know what they do. You know what they do to our bright stars. You know what they do to our brilliant ones, to our ones who offer us an opportunity for liberation. And there's always this fear that we will one day do to the oppressor what has been done to us. But we've demonstrated over and over again, just like in South Africa, that there's truth and reconciliation, that we are not a mean and evil and hateful people, but we only want what's fair and what's just. And so we've shifted the paradigm. And now our children will grow up, and they will know that this is normal. This is the way things should be, that the best candidate, the most qualified person, the person that stands for the people, and the people have changed, that is the person that we should elect. So we're excited. We're excited about this paradigm shift. And I want to end with something that my pastor said. I'm taking it from him. Reverend Anthony said on Sunday, and we were so excited. And there's another movement going on. The same group of people that are continually trying to destroy him, bring him down, and say that the things he stands for are not of God, and that's foolishness. You need to go to seminary so you can really know how to rightly divide the word of truth. But he said something that was very important. Because some people might say, well, Barack Obama doesn't really address the African-American community. You still have poverty. You still have crime. You still have issues. And he sometimes won't even come to the NAACP dinner. But Reverend Anthony said he was listening to LTD. And there's a song called Love Ballad. And in that song, Jeffrey Osborne says, what we have is much more than they can see. See, Barack Obama resurrects for us all of those great people who were slaughtered trying to stand up for what is just. And so for us, the relationship is much more than America will ever be able to see, because they have not struggled as we have. And so they won't really understand our joy and our excitement. And now, my brothers and sisters, we have to be willing to do the work. We have to continue to organize and stand up for what is just, what is right, and what is good. Speaking of which, I was at the Detroit Board of Education, the elected board of the Detroit Board of Education. They had a board meeting tonight. Their board meeting was held in the Detroit Public Library because the emergency manager, Roy Roberts, would not allow them to have a board meeting in any of the Detroit public schools. Although many of the Detroit public schools on Sunday mornings are being rented out to various churches in the community. How do we allow this to happen? How do we not stand up? Well, many of us were there, and we told the board, hey, we voted to empower you. Now take your power back and get our schools back and run them efficiently as only the people who live in this city, who pay the taxes, who pay the price can do. Our schools are only a reflection of our families. If they're broken, we need to fix our families and work on our schools together. So I have with me tonight a very special guest, someone who is on the forefront of liberation, justice, and peace, who puts his money where his mouth is, who works hard 7 days a week. Reverend D. Alexander Bullock, the pastor, the church right here in Highland Park, Greater St. Matthew. Reverend Bullock, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. So good to be here tonight.
Awesome. What I really love about Reverend Bullock, he's a scholar, he's an organizer, he's a Morehouse man. He was there at the age of 16, and I love that because Dr. King was at Morehouse at the age of 16. And right. I love how he doesn't use, there's no excuse for excellence. I was listening to the show before I got here, and the brother was talking about we not knowing what's inside of us. And if I work with educators and I work with young people and I tell them that the Latin word for education is educere, and that means to pull out, to extract what already exists. So you already have to believe that our children are great.
That's right.
And somebody believed that there was greatness in you, and they extracted that in you at an early age, and you were at Morehouse College, and you have been on the run ever since. So I want you to just talk to us a little bit about the school board, a little bit about the proposal that was voted on last week, what that means for us, and how we need to continue to organize. Let us know what's going on. Reverend Bullock.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say tonight to you, my sister, so powerful and prophetic position at this time to use your power and prowess to deliver us and help move us forward. I appreciate you so much tonight. To all of the viewers who are watching, thank you again for supporting the freedom struggle and movement. We also appreciate WHPR. What can I say about my friend, my brother from another mother? He is not my color, but he's definitely my kind, Barry Ross, and our great leader who's not here tonight, but he stands strong, kicking down doors in front of crack houses and saving the babies, fighting for the bridge and the bridge card, Malik Shabazz. We appreciate him. And, of course, last week we did it. The rumor was that black folk were not going to vote. That's what they said, MSNBC, CNN. They reported a lie that we were not going to show up. We were not excited about the president. We were not connected to the president. It was not 2008, but in fact in 2012 we showed that we were still connected. We were still energized. Ray Ray, Laquanda, Shaquanda, all of us voted. We were there. We came out. We showed up, and we showed out. And I'm so excited, and I'm thankful that people kept hope alive. In the words of River Jackson, they had the audacity of hope. In the words of Barack Obama, and we fight back. When we fight back, we win. And not only did we get him reelected 4 more years, but we also got Romney rejected, and then we got rid of the emergency manager in Michigan. I mean, a great victory, 52% to 48%. They lied to us in the wee hours of the morning, saying that we were not going to win the referendum, but weeping may endure for a night, and surely when I woke up Wednesday morning, joy. Yes. I had joy because we won, and we won with no money. We won with no budget. We won barely making it. We won tied, but we kept fighting, and we would crisscross this state so many times, and we're on the front line of that movement. And so the emergency manager is gone. What does that mean? Very simply, we believe it means that every emergency manager in a city or school district must cease and desist. If you saw me on Channel 2, Fox News last night, I told Brother Roberts, I told Governor Snyder, we got boxes, we got duct tape, we got movers, we're ready. We will meet you in Flint, Benton Harbor, Allen Park, Muskegon Heights, DPS, Highland Park. We'll help move you out. Financial Advisory Board will help you too, because we have spoken. They must follow the law. And so while they're trying to argue that now PA4 reverts back to 72, we know that the judge has already said that's not the case.
Right.
And then Roy Roberts is saying, well, I'm going to stay for 30 days until the ballots are certified. No, you want to stay 30 days because there's a bond issue up, and you want to make sure that that bond money is in the control of the state, not in control of DPS. And so there's this controversy now about the EAA. Now watch this. The Educational Achievement Authority does not have a legal basis because the people rescinded Public Act 4. What's that mean? There is no legislative or policy in place to authorize any of the EAA's powers.
Absolutely.
So they are basically driving without a license, right? They are selling without a business license. They are illegal. They are, if they were a brother or sister driving down the street and got pulled over, they'd be going to jail. They don't have no papers. they are out of bounds. They are outside the lines. And so today we were in Lansing, House Bill 6004 is a bill to authorize the powers of the EAA. What are some of those powers? Well, the power to buy and sell and transfer DPS assets. This is not about children.
Listen up.
This is about assets. They want buildings. They want equipment. They want to be able to enter into contracts and bust unions. They want to be able to hire teachers and pay them a slave's wage. They want to be able to pick the lowest performing schools and students off the bottom and have a race not to the top but to the bottom by way of experimentation. And anytime the government experiments with people, we saw in Tuskegee, they experimented with us. They experiment with us all the time. And so now we cannot stand by and let them experiment with the educational opportunities and life chances of African American children. And so we were there in Lansing today listening to the bill, and hopefully the bill will not pass. If it passes, don't send your kids to an EAA school, and then the DPS board must stand up and fight back. Even we stand with them tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
That's right.
We'll be down there because they are being sued by the Attorney General. Look at the melee and the misfortune, the chaos and the confusion in Michigan, where the Attorney General would be suing the elected representation of a school board. We elected these people, and then the Attorney General is going to sue the people we elected because he doesn't want the people we elected to represent our interests. And so this is crazy, and so we must continue to fight back. And so we celebrate. As always, at football games, I tell people today, this morning at UAW Local 140, I say, look, at halftime, the cheerleaders come on the field, and they stomp, sing their songs, and they celebrate. But then they come off the field because after halftime the game continues. And so we have celebrated. We were on the field after halftime celebrating that emergency managers were gone and the president was reelected. But we cannot stay on the field.
That's right.
Because now it's the third and fourth quarter of our struggle going into 2013 as we fight for mayor and city council and other elected offices. And we must continue to fight and hold on to that tug of rope. The only way to lose in the tug of war is to let go of the rope. We cannot let go. We must continue to fight back.
Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely. We must continue to fight back. And this battle has not just begun last night.
That's right.
So we've been fighting this battle since 1999, my brothers and my sisters.
That's right.
My brothers and my sisters, in 1999, when Governor Engler appointed on his way out the door, appointed Burnley, Ken Burnley. Ken Burnley bussed every teacher. I was a teacher in the city of Detroit at that time. He put us on school buses, sent us to Cobo Hall. They had a big rally, and he introduced John Posthumus as the next governor of Michigan. And he got booed for 10 minutes straight. The teachers from Cass got up and walked out because they can walk back to school from Cobo Hall. They left. We were clear that day that it was a Republican agenda.
That's right.
Because he didn't hold us up in any way. He let us know who he was beholden to. Of course, Governor Granholm won, and I have to fault her because after she went to the inauguration of Barack Obama, she met Robert Bobb.
Right.
And next thing you know, Robert Bobb was flown in from Detroit, and on one day it was announced that he was the emergency manager and she was installing him. There was no warning, there was no ratification, there was no 30-day wait. He was just installed as the emergency manager, and he stayed here and did as much destruction as he could possibly do, and he slipped out in the twinkling of an eye.
That's right.
Nobody knew where he was going and when he was going. He was gone, he was done, and then here comes Mr. Roberts. And so we've had a few things in between that, but what has happened spiritually and emotionally is that the people of Detroit have heard so much toxic negativity. You talk about your own kids.
Mm-hmm.
These are our children. So if they're not achieving, the responsibility is on us.
That's right.
If they're not turning in their homework, the responsibility is on the parents. And so we allowed other people to tell us so many negative things about ourselves. We began to say things like, yeah, DPS is this and DPS is that. Oh, we're going to take a phone call? Okay, I haven't done this before. This is my first time taking a call. They're giving me the sign. What do I do? Push the button, the red one?
But we don't have one flashing yet. I don't think.
Okay, if you want to call in, you can call in.
There it is. There it is. Number 4.
Just push it. All right. Hello, caller. How are you?
Caller, hello.
Good afternoon, Reverend Balak. This is Brother Knight. You was asking about what happened to Robert Bob.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to Louisiana. That's where he's from. So he snuck back home down in the bayou. And hopefully some of the folks down there give him a nice welcome to a swamp. But that's where he went. So, I have my whole family is from down there, Louisiana. Some of them in Baton Rouge, Grambling. My mother's sister taught college at Grambling. All the women in my mother's family are Delta sorority sisters.
Okay.
So he went back down there. So hopefully a crocodile will get him.
We wish him no ill. We just need him to leave our kids alone.
He went back down to New Orleans.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, caller. I believe he's actually in D.C. He's working in Washington, D.C., but I love New Orleans. I spend every summer in New Orleans, Louisiana, studying with urban bush women, and I see a great parallel between what happened in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina.
That's right.
And what happened in Detroit with hurricane economic disaster.
That's right.
Because what they did in New Orleans is they said after the hurricane, they fired all the public teachers. They said, all of y'all fired. And as they opened up schools, they brought in the Teach for America teachers.
That's right.
And there are parents down there that are saying that it's an atrocity and no one is speaking up for their children. But what we had was an economic hurricane. And so then our school systems were wiped out. And so this EAA, it's an atrocity on our children. I graduated from Mumford High School as well, along with Barry. And Mumford High School is now a newly multi-million-dollar school. That's an EAA school that's run by people who are not from this community, have no connections, no roots in this community, but somebody has to live in all those condos that were built downtown. Oh, I'm clear on it. I'm not holding you up. Gentrification is real, but I said we must get this lesson. We must learn to live together, to work together, to go to school together, go to church together. We have to get it right this time, or it's not going to be good. So the EAA school was brought up tonight at the board meeting, how they tempered every agenda with once the vote has been ratified and certified and the judge moves on it. I think that's utterly ridiculous. And as the crowd continued to listen, we became disgruntled with that because we felt you worked hard to get the proposal on the ballot. We know how they tried to disqualify the petitions to even get it on the ballot by saying the font size was incorrect. And we had to sue them. I say we because I'm on that team. If I'm a cheerleader or I'm out there getting signatures, I'm on the team.
That's right.
We had to get the, so it was ridiculous. It was every step of the way they tried to prevent it, but we finally got it on the ballot, and then the people spoke, and then the state of Michigan still would say, well, yeah, we know you spoke, but we're gonna still buy a little more time. And it's all trickery and foolery, and we need to educate ourselves, we need to get involved, and we need to, as my first point I was trying to make about our low self-esteem, we need to quit beasting on Detroit. We need to quit beasting on DPS, because on the one hand, you look on the website, they want your kids to come, they're telling you all the wonderful things, all the beautiful things, all the scholars. There's a dinner that's held with students who get a 3.5 their whole high school career, over 300, 400, 500 kids. News media is never there. But let somebody get shot, let somebody get stabbed, they're on the scene. So they want to tell you all these wonderful things to get your children. When once they have your children, they tell you, oh, they're not achieving, so we want to take it over. There's a 3-year slope. They explain this. Now, the 3 years have been the 3 years under the emergency manager. Emergency financial manager is just a linguistic thing. People don't know. They changed the name because every time the board sued, they won. They put that on page 8. of the newspaper. They didn't put that on the front page.
That's right.
Every time they sued the emergency financial manager for being in areas that he had no authority to be in, they won. So then the governor changed the name to emergency manager. That meant he could be over everything. Gave him full power and control. And just like I told the teachers, when they disenfranchised the janitors, I said, we need to speak up for the janitors, because, you know, if they after them, we next.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I'm noticing, and we do have to stop, as you say, beasting on Detroit. I mean, we have to be positive in our speech, and we don't wish brother, what's his name, Brother Bob, any harm. But I do want to say that at the paradigm shift that we need is not just positive talking and thinking, but we've got to draw lines in the sand, and we've got to hold people accountable. The fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party, Michigan Democratic Party, did not stand with us when we were fighting against emergency management.
All right now.
AFSCME, Council 25, great leadership. Herb Sanders, great leadership. Al Garrett, great leadership. They were the only real union force behind it. Everybody else kind of was waving from the stands, but they were all with Proposal 2. They lost Proposal 2, but they didn't stand with us on Proposal 1. In fact, in backroom meetings, there were people who were supposed to be our allies who were saying, basically, let them fend for themselves. And I think there's a real problem, because the children of darkness stick together, but the children of light don't want to work together. I mean, everybody wants their individual recognition. Everybody wants their name in lights. Everybody wants their trophy. I mean, we have to learn how to get behind effective leadership. You know, and at the end of the day, if we all come together and work together, we can get a bigger bang for our buck, and we can get more things done. And so even with the school board tonight, you know, their kind of tentative nature, their tentative response to Roy Roberts. I mean, it's hard to be out there when you don't know if you have cover from the community and from your allies. You know, if your allies say, hey, let's go for a march, you turn around, you by yourself, you went for a walk. I mean, and then you feel bad about it, you know. So we have to learn how to support people and back people up. We might not always agree on everything, but we got to support and back people up. I think moving into this headwind of foolishness, of hypocrisy, this wildness and wickedness in the land, I mean, we really got to learn how to stick together and stop trying to figure out, well, that's not my issue. That's not my issue. Let's fight for democracy. Let's fight for self-control and local control. And then at the same time, we have to not only hold our elected officials accountable, but then we begin to hold our parents and preachers and pastors and teachers and community stakeholders accountable. And the fact of the matter is that $30 million that they're going to use to give to EAA, right, all of the foundation money that they're using to set it up, all the federal government dollars that they're pooling and state government dollars they're pooling to set up a separate school district as one, right, within the city, because somehow competition is supposed to breed excellence, which is not true. It's not a race to the top, it's a race to the bottom. They could be using that money to stabilize families, to stabilize neighborhoods, to put Detroiters back to work, to make sure that children live in homes that are more stable. They could be using that money to establish recovery programs for families and family members. And it's amazing to me how they're going to use this money to set up the EAA, then use our tax dollars to build the schools and to pay the operating funds. But then when we say we need reinvestment, turn the lights back on, give us more police, right? We want grocery stores in our community, stop insurance redlining, you know, stop the foreclosure, right? So that we're not underwater with our homes. Then they don't have any money for reinvestment. It's just amazing to me how there are all these millions of dollars to set up an alternative statewide district to experiment on black children, but there isn't any money or any will or resource for reinvestment and putting Detroiters back to work. So at the same time, while we're fighting against emergency management and fighting to lift the profile of the city, we had to come together and begin to fight for resources and opportunities in our community.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break, but I want to leave with this. We are inextricably connected.
We done.
We done.
You can't put two powerful preachers like this together on no show at night talking about we done. Lines full, people want to talk to us, man. They talking about we done.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being patient with me. I'll get this phone thing right. I thank you for the opportunity. This won't be the end. We will continue, but the main point we want to leave with is that we are inextricably connected. I said that on my business card, it says minister, educator, artist. Minister, educator, artist.
That's right.
And we're working together to make this a better city for all of us, because we're not leaving and asking the last one to leave, turn off the lights. We come in here and turn the lights on and say, anybody want to pull up their sleeves and make this a better place? Join with us.
Tuesdays, 9 p.m. on TV 33. Join me, Barry Ross, on Mixing It Up. We'll feature informative community organizations that will offer solutions to Wayne County residents in reference to employment, safety, and security within neighborhoods, job training, education, and mentoring programs. Remember, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Join me, Barry Ross, Mixing It Up on TV 33.
1,000 men's suits. And right now at Sermons, you can buy one and get two free. Not one suit, but two free. Buy one suit, bring two friends. Buy one suit, bring two relatives. Buy one suit, get two free. Bring your pastor, your boss, your teacher. Buy one suit and get two free. Sermons with 90 years of experience, carrying jeans, exotic skin shoes, sets, shirts, leathers, sweaters, everything for the well-dressed man. Buy one suit, get two free. Sermons on Randolph in downtown Detroit.